Have you ever thought about what would happen if the seasons just broke? I mean, a year where winter never really left and summer just never showed up. Well, today we're diving into the wild true story of 1816. It's known as the year without a summer.
Right across the northern hemisphere, it was like the sun went dim. The air got cold. It literally snowed in June. So the big question is, why? What could possibly trigger such a bizarre, catastrophic event on a global scale?
And you know, this wasn't just some weird weather pattern. For the people living through it, it was an absolute nightmare. This first-hand account from a guy in Massachusetts just captures the total disbelief. Frost every single month, snow falling in June. This was an agricultural apocalypse just waiting to happen. Okay, so to solve this mystery, we actually have to hit rewind. We're going back to 1815, and we're traveling thousands of miles away from those freezing fields in New England. Turns out the source of this bone-chilling cold wasn't somewhere up in the sky. It was deep inside the earth. And here it is. This is our culprit, Mount Tambora, in what is now Indonesia. In April of 1815, this volcano didn't just erupt, it produced the single most powerful volcanic explosion in recorded human history. A catastrophic, off-the-charts 7 on the Volcanic Explosivity Index.
So how in the world can one volcano on one remote island cause snow in New England and famine clear over in Ireland? Well, the answer isn't on the ground, it's way, way up in the atmosphere.
Here's the basic breakdown. Tambora's blast was so ridiculously powerful that it shot huge amounts of ash and sulfur dioxide way up into the stratosphere. Once it was up there, those particles mixed with water and formed this hazy veil of aerosols that basically wrapped itself around the entire planet, reflecting sunlight back into space. It was like someone had put a dimmer switch on the sun.
And the result of that? Well, a pretty significant drop in the average global temperature. Now, I know what you're thinking. Minus 0.7 degrees Celsius, that doesn't sound like a lot, right? But in climate terms, that is a massive, massive disruption. And remember, that was just the average. In some places, it got way, way colder.
Just take a look at this temperature map of Europe. It really shows you how bad it was. Those dark blue areas got slammed with temperatures up to 3.5 degrees Celsius colder than normal. That is not a cool summer. That's a summer that feels more like November.
So how are we so sure that Tambora was the cause? Well, this right here is the smoking gun. Scientists drilled into Greenland's ice cores, and what they found was this chart. See that gigantic spike in sulfate levels right after 1815? That is the chemical fingerprint of Tambora's eruption. It's the proof that its volcanic particles had spread all the way around the globe.
Of course, this fascinating scientific phenomenon very quickly became a horrific human catastrophe. The fallout from Tambora would go on to trigger what's been called the last great subsistence crisis in the Western world. Over in the eastern United States, people started talking about this eerie, persistent, dry fog that just wouldn't burn off. It made the sun look reddish and dimmed the light so much that you could actually look right at it and see sunspots. Can you imagine how terrifying that must have been? And the cold was just relentless. This account from a doctor, writing in June, is just staggering. Icicles a foot long, in the middle of the day, in what's supposed to be early summer. The entire natural order of the world had been flipped on its head.
And with all these crop failures, the economic consequences were immediate and they were brutal. Just look at the price of oats, which you have to remember was the gasoline of the time. It's what you fed your horses, the main engine of transport. The price skyrockets by almost 800% in just 1 year. The entire economy started to seize.
And if you think that was bad, across the Atlantic, the situation was even more grim. Europe was already on its knees, totally exhausted and fragile after decades of the Napoleonic Wars. This climate shock hit a continent that had zero safety net, and it triggered the worst famine of the entire century. It was just a brutal cascade of disasters. The failed harvests led to mass hunger. That hunger led to food riots breaking out across Great Britain, France, everywhere. In Ireland, the famine paved the way for a deadly typhus epidemic. And the whole time, the sky kept dropping these grim reminders, like the bizarre red-tinted snow that fell over Italy. But here is where the story of 1816 takes a really unexpected turn. Incredibly, out of all this darkness and misery came some of our most lasting and important cultural creations. You can literally see the gloom in the art from the period. Take a look at these two paintings by Caspar David Friedrich. On the left, you've got a piece from before the eruption,
and on the right, one from 1817. Just look at the sky. It's changed. It's darker, it's hazier, it's oppressive. The artists were painting the strange new world that they were seeing right outside their windows.
And that brings us to a villa on Lake Geneva in Switzerland during that same cold, miserable, wet summer. A group of young, brilliant English writers, including Lord Byron and a teenager named Mary Shelley, were trapped inside. Their big summer vacation was totally ruined by the endless, gloomy rain. So, to pass the time, they came up with a challenge. Who could write the best ghost story? And what came out of that one gloomy, bored holiday contest? Oh, nothing much. Just 3 masterpieces of Gothic literature. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, John Polidori's The Vampire, which was a huge inspiration for Dracula, and Lord Byron's absolutely chilling apocalyptic poem, Darkness.
The crazy chain of events just keeps going. That oat shortage we talked about, it inspired a German inventor to create a horseless carriage, a direct ancestor of the bicycle. And the horrible crop failures back in New England, they pushed thousands of families to just give up, abandon their farms, and head west, which in turn helped fuel the huge expansion into the American Midwest.
Lord Byron's poem, which he wrote that very summer, just perfectly captures the apocalyptic feeling of the time. A world where the sun had gone out and everyone was just left behind in the cold and the dark.
When you step back, the story of 1816 is just this powerful, mind-blowing reminder of how deeply interconnected everything is. A single geologic event on one side of the planet set off a chain reaction that changed the climate, caused famines, sparked riots, inspired timeless art, and even helped invent the bicycle. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What single event happening right now might be quietly reshaping our own world in ways we can't even begin to imagine?